Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. DJ Jazzy Jeff performs live at the Célébrez and Rosé Wine and Music Festival this Saturday at National Harbor. We spoke about his successful hip-hop career, winning Grammys for Parents Just Don't Understand and Summertime, before starring in TV's The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and even his reaction to Will Smith slapping Chris Rock on stage at the Oscars. Hey, DJ Jazzy Jeff, thanks so much for joining us again on WTOP.
How are you?
We're doing all right. We caught up with you back in, I think we spoke just a couple months ago, like back in when you came and did this same thing on Labor Day weekend.
Yes.
But now we're doing it again. It's going to be at National Harbor on June 11th. It's called the Célébrez in Rose. Remind our listeners what this is. Little wine, a lot of music.
Well, yeah, it's a wine festival, a rosé festival, but everybody wears pink and white, and it's a dress-up affair. It's always in a beautiful location. It has a great talent, and people have a good time. You know, when I did it last year, it was the first one that I did, and it was amazing just looking at a sea of people just enjoying themselves.
Yeah, I think they've done it three years, but last year was your first time.
Yes.
Awesome. So who's going to be on stage with you this time? It's a pretty star-studded lineup.
Oh man, Robin Thicke, and Tamia. So I'm super excited. I'm super excited to see them. It's always a great lineup, and you know, my job is, you know, in between watching these amazing acts, to make everybody have a good time. So throw your glass in the air and let's go.
So Robin Thicke do a little Blurred Lines. You'll play your hits. It's gonna be fun. Now, do our listeners need to know anything? You said throw the glass in the air, but what else should they do? Just what do they need to know? Just dress comfortably, be prepared to party.
Just comfortably, and you have to make sure that you have pink and white on.
Oh, you got to wear pink and white.
Well, you don't want to come without wearing pink and white. Let's just say that. Like, you don't want to be the odd man out.
Right, you'll stick out like a sore thumb.
Yes.
Right. So you don't have to, but it's like not wearing green on St. Patrick's Day.
There you go. There you go.
I love it. I love it. Well, very, very cool. Now, in case our listeners, they might have missed the last conversation, if you can go check it out in our archives if you want to find it, folks. But remind them, you know, you that beautiful studio you're at now it's somewhere like along the Philly, Delaware border or something. You live somewhere around there, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Because you're born and raised in Philly. Take me back to, you know, the early days. You know, what you grew up listening to, how you discovered hip hop. I guess it was block parties back then.
Yeah, you know, but growing up in Philly, you're growing up in the home of Gamble and Huff, which is, you know, like growing up in Detroit with Motown.
Sure.
So, you know, we always had great music from a lot of the people in the city. You know, so we come from a really good lineage of, you know, when it's around you, you can't help but to feed off of that same kind of energy. So yeah, it's, you know, it's definitely been beautiful. You know, Will and I, you know, have had a long career of music and television and just, you know, but the roots all started in Philly.
Absolutely. And remind us the moment that, you know, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, it would become a famous duo. But remind us how you met Will the first time. Wasn't it like it was a happenstance? Like you got a call to do a party next door to his house or something?
Yeah. And I got the call, and I had another rapper that used to travel with me, and I picked up the phone and I called, and he never answered the phone. So my life would be greatly different if he would have answered the phone, but because he didn't, you know, Will was at the party. He asked, you know, where my MC was. I said I couldn't get in touch with him. Will said, "Hey, you mind if I fill in?" And he's been filling in for 38 years.
Yeah, long relationship. The very first Grammy what you guys did was Parents Just Don't Understand. Was that was, didn't you say that was inspired by your mom? Like you went to the grocery store?
Yeah. You know, you get to a point that you kind of think that you're bigger than you are. And my mom was like, "Listen, I need you to go to the grocery store and get me some milk and eggs." And I was like, "Mom, you know, we just came from doing this show for 20,000 people." And she said, "And I need some milk and eggs."
She didn't care.
No. But you know what? Your parents aren't supposed to care. You will always be, you know, their child. So I looked at Will and said, "Parents just don't understand." And it was like, hey, That's a good one. The rest was history.
The light bulb went off for sure.
Yeah.
You followed up with Summertime, and why do you think that one works so well? I mean, it's still played at barbecues today. I mean, this summer I'm sure it'll be playing everywhere.
Yeah. It was because it was written from a point of truth. Will was his first year on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and he was actually missing growing up in Philly because we have the seasons. People know, fall, winter gets cold and dark, spring comes and everybody's optimistic. Soon as it starts to get warm, people bring out the cars and wax the car and you go cruising. And him being in LA and it's pretty much 90 degrees all of the time, he
One
didn't get
level.
that season change. And he called one day and was asking, and we were just kind of talking like, oh man, well, such and such got a new car, and you should have seen such and such. And it really inspired him. Like, you know what, I want to write about the nostalgia that people have, especially on the East Coast, growing up, coming from spring into summer.
Yeah, here in the Mid Atlantic, man. I can see why you stayed around here because
Yes.
we love this all the four seasons around.
Yes. The colors change 4 times a year.
Exactly. I'm a fall leaves changing kind of guy.
I'm with you.
myself.
I am with you.
But Summertime's a great song. Well, very cool. Well, you just mentioned that he was out there shooting the first season of the Fresh Prince, and of course you would take part in that show yourself. Before we get to the acting side of playing jazz, tell me about writing the TV theme because that you basically sort of wrote it as a demo, right? And it wound up becoming the song.
Yeah, I thought we were making a filler. Like I really thought that this was going to be a thing that,
Like a
they were going
placeholder.
to use until they figured out what the real theme song was.
Yeah.
And we did it, and I mixed it, and that's the same thing that plays on television today.
It never
that still
changed.
trips me out. Never changed.
Never changed. That
Never changed.
Now, so Will wrote those lyrics, and you wrote the music, or did you write?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so crazy. And basically, you're just. I mean, it makes sense. You're writing about your life, growing up and born and raised Philadelphia. Well, cool. And then in terms of playing the role of jazz, I'm sure you got into this whole thing from the hip hop side, and then writing the TV theme. But you didn't think you'd ever be playing the role. But how did that actually happen? Were they just like, hey, you know what? Why don't you try this? And it worked.
Yeah. I think. They noticed Will from the Parents Just Don't Understand video.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the video too. So they were kind of like, you know what, you guys played in the video so well together. Do you think he would be interested? So Will called and asked me, and I was like, no. And he called back and he was just like, listen, I know this isn't what you want to do, but I got an idea. Why don't you do 3? If you do 1 and you love it, you got 2 more to look forward to. If you do 1 and you hate it, you only have 2 left to do. And he's really convincing. So I was kind of like, you know what, since you put it like that, okay. And I didn't realize it was going to end up being 5-6 years.
Wow. Well, we fans are glad that it ended up being.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Now I'm sure you might still have the bruises to show though, because every time Uncle Phil would throw you out the window, I always thought it was like a dummy they threw out, but I believe it was the real. Like you had to go limp and fly out, right?
Yes, and that was extremely painful. And it really got to a point that I was kind of like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah,
that's why they kept using the stock shot. And then that became funny because whenever you saw me walk in with that shirt, everyone kind of understood what it was. So
it had to be that same shirt that they'd already pre-recorded you getting thrown out because they knew that it had to cut. Were there any times where it cut to and you're in a different shirt?
No. I mean, but I've recorded me getting thrown out in multiple outfits.
Right.
And that was the day that I was like, I'm not doing this anymore because I was black and blue. So
oh my God.
Like, if you can't find that outfit, then you go into that one, or you're gonna get a dummy.
a rapper, actor, and a stunt man. Wait, was there a mattress or a pad or anything? Or
absolutely.
Oh,
it was a pad, but it wasn't as cushy as it could have been.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like the people that are like, you're hitting a wrestling ring. How bad can it hurt? It hurts.
Yes.
Awesome. I love it. Well, do you have a favorite episode? Was it when you got married, or I mean, there's lots of big moments, but
I think it was the one when I got married, just because that was the most lines that I had. and and that show was predominantly me. So that was a lot of fun. It was challenging, but it was fun.
Yeah, and I know we lost Avery, the guy that played Uncle Phil.
Mhm.
Just memories, rest in peace, and just memories, memories of him and the fact that we've lost him. Too way too young.
Oh man, James Avery is the guy who made me understand the value of vacationing.
Oh,
He
okay.
was, oh man, because it's funny, growing up in the inner city in Philadelphia, we vacation where we could. So I was never trained on going somewhere and just completely relaxing, going off the grid,
Mm,
unwinding, taking a drive across the country. And he was such an avid jazz listener. And he would travel, and he really started telling me, like, I remember I was like, hey, I'm about to take my very first real vacation. Where should I go? And he was like,
yeah.
go to Cancun. Cancun had some of the prettiest beaches and some of the best seafood. And I went and I had a ball. So I would continuously go to him and ask him, like, where should I go next? Oh man, you've been to Hawaii? No. Well, you should leave here and go to Hawaii and go to the different islands. So I really appreciated the insight that he just gave me, as far as expanding your horizon when it comes to traveling.
Your personal travel agent, but more
Yeah.
importantly, the idea of work-life balance. He taught you
Yep.
that you needed to
Yep.
take a break every now and then. Wow. Well, I always admired, after the Fresh Prince, of course, Will went on to become blockbuster
Mhm.
movie star, Independence Day, Men in Black, Bad Boys, the whole nine. But you decided you were going to take a bit more of a behind the scenes role, right? Like, is there a reason that you decided, I'm going to still produce Big Willie style with him and everything, but I'm going to maybe not be the public face of it anymore.
Because one of my roles in DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince was the producer.
Right.
And I wanted to get into producing other people. Um, and a lot of times it's hard when you're managing your own career and you're managing a side career.
Right.
And we had been DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, traveling and doing all the rest of that for 10 years. So it was kind of like, hey, the only role that changed was my name wasn't on the album cover. I still produced, and whenever he had shows, I still did. But I just didn't want that contractual obligation because there was a bunch of other stuff that I wanted to do.
Right, right. Well, yeah, you've done a ton. You produced a ton of people, a touch of jazz productions. Maybe we get to
Mhm.
that in a minute. But tell me about real quick before we just while we're moving chronologically. Any memories of helping produce Big Willie style? There were so many hits on that, from Getting Jiggy with It to the Men in Black theme, Miami, the Two of Us, remake cover. Man, any memories of being in the studio cutting any of those?
Just renting out the entire Hit Factory, and it might have been 5 studios with people in, and he was going from room to room to recording. And that was great because it was some amazing producers that were in these rooms. Um, and we were on a speed dial to try to get the album done. So just going from room to room and the people that stopped by, it was that was a lot of fun. That was, I think that was the first moment that you felt a little bit more in creative control.
Yeah.
On that level that Will rented out the studio. This wasn't a record company. He rented all of these
Right.
studios and got all of these producers. And that was great. That was fun.
Right, absolutely, and that's around that time, and then the turn of the millennium and all that. It's things are really popping off. And was there a moment ever where you're sitting in the movie theater eating your popcorn and you're looking up and you're like, how the heck is that the
Nope.
guy that I
Nope.
grew I grew
Nope.
up with?
Not at all. Like that was the plan from day one.
Yeah,
Like that was like, that was the plan. He wants to be a movie star and I want to do music for movies. Like so
you
none of this,
envisioned the whole thing, and then
yeah,
you
none
watched
of
it.
this was a surprise.
Right.
People didn't understand that it was a means to the end. It
Yeah.
wasn't meant for us to be a group forever. We had already thought past that.
Right. Absolutely. And I've always, in every video he's given, and you yourself always talked about, envisioning it and then making it happen. And it's one of the greatest, Hollywood success stories probably ever. And I'm sure my listeners are like, why are you avoiding the elephant in the room? But I gotta add, I mean, definitely not any gotcha question, anything like that. I want to be respectful. But what's your reaction to this whole Oscar slap thing? Banned for 10 years from the Oscars. It's gotta be hard for you to watch, but at the same time, you don't want his whole life to be defined by that, on a bad night. Mm-hmm. But yeah, what's your reaction?
A lapse in judgment.
Yeah.
It is as simple as that. It's just different when the lapse in judgment comes from one of the most recognizable figures on the planet. Yeah. But that is probably nothing more than 99.9% of us had done at some point in time in our life.
Right.
It just so happened that he did it on national television at the Oscars. So, people aren't defined by their lapses in judgment, because if it was, I don't think any of us would have the right to say anything. Yeah. So it's just, it's unfortunate, more than anything. I know Will and I know his character, and, he was very remorseful, and I've stated before, I've seen this man avoid bad lapses in judgment more than anybody I know when he could have, it just so happened that this was the one. Right. So.
Well, I appreciate you being so, candid and down to earth talking about it. Yeah. I mean, and the reason, because like you, the rest of it, we loved Will. We loved, we loved all of his stuff. And it was like the last person you'd think it would happen. So, yeah, I guess our heart goes out, and then we hope that everything, gets back together. Did you reach out afterwards? And I don't want to go too far down on a tangent, but I'm sure you've talked and say, I'm praying for you or whatever.
Like, this is one of my closest friends.
Yeah.
Sure. And make sure he's okay, and he's okay.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. Well, thanks for talking about it there. We'll bring it back to the Célébrez and Rose, and I appreciate you taking through the whole life journey. It's all part of your story. But remind our listeners what you've been up to lately with the Touch of Jazz Productions. Like there's some big names you've produced. I know Raheem Devon and Jill Scott and Music Soul Child. How rewarding is that to be able to cultivate other artists?
It's great. It's great because it doesn't pigeonhole you into one thing. I've been able to pretty much make the music that I want to make, whether I'm the artist or not. So this is great. It's very weird having a goal and achieving the goal. It's when people ask, what do you plan on being in the next 10 years? I'm kind of like right where I'm at. Like know what I mean? Like if I found if I found utopia, why leave?
Exactly. The grass isn't always greener. If you're already in utopia, stay there and make it fruitful. Yes. Well, very cool. Well, I've always wanted to know, and we didn't ask you this last time you were here, but you're like an icon of hip hop, and you've basically watched it go from its infancy to now it's a global juggernaut. It's like the arguably the biggest genre of music in the world. Do you take a certain pride that, you were able to sort of spark that?
Of course you're happy to have some kind of a input in it, but I don't think I look at it like that. Like I feel like I was a part of a really, really dope club.
Right.
Like I was a part of one of the best clubs, in the world, of watching the birth of something. To watch it from its infant stage to this becoming your music, that was our music, as we grew up. What we were listening to was pretty much our parents' music. And then all of a sudden hip hop comes and we grab it because it's ours. We still got our parents, but now this is ours. But to watch that now people's grandkids have it, what I love is we still got ours though.
Right.
But it's, to watch that, I'm just happy that it's still going on.
you are now the parent that doesn't understand. You know what I mean?
There you
There's
go.
or some
There you
in some
go.
cases grandparents that and that have grandkids. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's a little trippy, but it goes on and on. You've been generous with your time. Before we run, whenever I have interviews, I always love to do you have like a Mount Rushmore of hip hop people in your life? Like you know what I mean? It's so hard. It's hard. Like that's when people ask me like what's my favorite movie? I'm like, I can't tell you that. Give me a genre.
You know what? That is you just gave the perfect answer. You can't. Because there's so many different categories of movies.
Yeah.
There's so many different styles. You're not trying to put, E.T. next to Save It Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Those are two different genres of movies. So
it's both Spielberg. That's about all they have in common.
Yeah, it's the same thing to me with music. Like, I can't, my brain shuts off whenever I'm asked that question because I love so much, I love so much. But one thing that I will say, and I think has been very beneficial, is I hold on to the music I love and let go of the music that I don't. I don't talk bad about it. If it's not for me, I slide it to the side to make room. And I think sometimes people that talk about, oh, I don't like this on the radio, I don't like this on the radio. To me, I think you're taking up more of the space that you should be putting the songs that you do like in those spaces instead of talking about what you don't.
Right. You could be promoting your favorites with that time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So wait, real quick, what are those? What's on the shelf behind you then? How many albums? What do you have a sample of what all albums that? Is that vinyls?
I have vinyl all around the room.
I love
you only
it.
get a chance to see that. But I have vinyl all around the room. I'm never giving up my vinyl.
Nor should you, because you never that tangible media, man. I know.
People
might call it outdated, but my wife and I still drive around and listen to CDs in the car. I don't care.
I'm with you. That's right. You got to touch the music.
You can make your own mixtapes with it. You know what I mean? It's different. And streaming's good and all, but it's a different world. But hey, we really, really appreciate you joining us. Bring it full circle. Tell our listeners why pretend I'm not even here. Speak directly to them. Come on out.
Célébrez and Rose is an amazing event that you definitely need to come to. Tickets are selling super fast. Make sure you secure your spot, and you can get tickets at celebrezandrose.com. That's Célébrez with a Z, rose.com.
I love it. And it's going to be down at National Harbor, just outside the nation's capital on June 11th. So get your tickets now. Hey, DJ Jazzy Jeff, thanks so much. It's always a pleasure talking with you, and I really, really appreciate it.
Yes, man. I appreciate it once again.
Thanks so much for joining us on Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Remember to hit the subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.